Welcome back to Solo Stitching. Today I'm going to show you how to do the crocheted zigzag stitch like you can see here on this sample that I made while I was experimenting with some fall colors. So I'm going to walk you through step by step how to create a zigzag to use in your next crochet project. And you can use this for a variety of things. My grandma made me a zigzag afghan that she gave me when I graduated from high school. You can use it for placemats. You can put it on a hat. You can make a smaller version to do mittens with. It really is very versatile and just kind of fun. So let's dig right in. I'm Lavina Perry. This is Solo Stitching. Let's stitch. So I am using a medium weight synthetic yarn. I just went and picked up some colors of I Love This yarn just to play around with some fall colors, just to see what I like for this season. So you can use whatever color you want, whatever kind of yarn you want. This just is a medium weight, and I'm using a size K 6.5 millimeter hook just so that it is easier to see the stitches for this tutorial. You can make it with a different size hook, a smaller size hook. You'll have finer stitches closer together, but just for demonstration purposes, I just think everything is easier to see if you're using a bigger hook. So I'm going to go ahead and chain 27 stitches, and that will get us 2 full waves of our zigzag. So now what we're going to double crochet into the 4th stitch from our hook. So we'll just count backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be the stitch that I'm working into, and just do a double crochet. So now I'm going to double crochet in the next 4 stitches so that I have 5 total double crochets. So here's number 2, number 3, four, and 5. All right, so now we're going to make our first bend in our zigzag, and we're going to do that by skipping some stitches, but I'm not going to be adding any chain stitches, so it will pull it like this. So I'm going to skip 2 stitches, and I'm going to double crochet into the 3rd stitch, and I'm going to do the same thing that I just did. I'm going to complete 5 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now I'm going to create the first rise. So we've already created this point where it comes down. Now I'm going to be creating the point where it comes up. So I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to double crochet in the stitch right next to that. Yarn does not want to come out easily. All right, and I'm going to complete 4 more double crochets so that I have a total of 5 again. There's 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we're going to make the second downward point of our zigzag by skipping 2 stitches again and working into the 3rd stitch with a double crochet. And you can make these zigzags shorter by doing less double crochets. You can do it with single crochets. There is literally a million different ways that you can create this zigzag pattern. You can even switch up rows where you're doing like double crochet, single crochet, puff stitch, however you want, but you're going to be following the same pattern where you're going to work stitches and then you're going to skip, and then you're going to work stitches and you're going to add chains, stitches, skipping. So that's how you create that shape. This is just a very simple just demonstration on how to get that shape of the zigzag stitch in your project, but you can use it with a variety of stitches and get as creative as you want to create texture. All right, so we have our 5 stitches, and then I'm going to add one more double crochet into the same stitch. So that last stitch is going to have 2 double crochets in it, and then I'm going to chain 3. So now when I turn, I'm going to be working into this very first stitch. I'm going to do a double crochet and I'm going to create 5 double crochets coming back the other way, 1 in each stitch. So there's 2, 3, 4, and stitch number 5. Okay, so now we're at our downward point, so we're going to skip 2 stitches and we're going to double crochet into the 3rd stitch. And if I counted right, everything will line up perfectly. So there's 2, 3, 4 into the top of this stitch. You can see right next to the chain space, that's going to be my 4th stitch. And then I'm going to double crochet the 5th double crochet into the chain space. And now to create the upward point, I'm going to chain 2. And now I'm going to put a 2nd double crochet into this chain space after I did my chain 2, and that is going to be the first stitch, the first double crochet of the series of 5. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we're going to create one more bottom point by skipping 2 stitches and double crochet into the 3rd stitch. And we're going to do 4 more double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and in this space where we had our initial 3 chains, that's where I'm going to put my last double crochet to finish out my series of 5. And then I'm going to add that 2nd double crochet like we did on the other side, and then I'm ready to chain 3. But I'm going to switch colors so we can see the contrast so that it's easier to see the zigzag shape. So I'm actually going to pick these stitches back up here, and I pulled that one too tight. There we go. And I'm going to switch out to this green. So hold on to that. And now I'm gonna do my chain 3 up the side. And by changing colors that way you have a nice clean post. You don't have the other color left over, which would be this chain coming up. And I don't like how that looks, so I like this better. It gives it a very clean start to your next color. So we're going to turn and then do our double crochet into that very first stitch and start our series of 5 double crochets. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now we're to our downward point. So I'm going to skip 2 and I'm going to double crochet into the 3rd stitch. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do 5 double crochets. So here's 2, 3, 4, and number 5 is going to be into the chain space of our point. We're going to chain 2 to create the next point, and we're going to double crochet back into that same chain space to start our series of 5 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we're to the bottom point, so we'll skip 2 stitches and double crochet into that 3rd stitch and complete 5 double crochets. There's 4, and we'll put our last double crochet into the space created by our chain stitches. And then we'll do our 2nd double crochet in the same stitch. And then again, we're going to chain 3 to move up to our next row. So there's 2 and there's 3. And then we're going to turn and work back across, and you can see the nice zigzag starting to form, and this contrast makes it really nice to see. So we'll go ahead and finish out this row. Do our 5 double crochets. Now we're at our bottom point, so we're going to skip 2 and work into the 3rd stitch, completing 5 double crochets. And the 5th one is going to be in the chain space. Chain 2 to create the point, and then double crochet back into the chain space to start our series of 5 double crochets. Two, 3, 4, and 5. And then we'll create our last downward point, skip 2, work into this 3rd stitch, And the fifth one we're going to work into this space created by the chains, and we'll do 2 double crochets in that space. And if I was going to switch colors, then I would switch them right here. So that is how you create zigzags. So it is just about skipping some stitches on the bottom and adding stitches to create the top point. And that is the whole secret to doing zigzags. So you can make them shorter by doing less stitches on these runs. You can make them longer by adding more stitches to the runs. And if you want it to be closer together with the stitching, you can decrease the size of your hook and use a finer yarn. This type of yarn is just good for doing demonstrations, and I like this bigger hook for doing demonstrations, but if you want it to be a little more refined looking, you can obviously decrease those and get your stitches to be a little closer together and decrease the size of these holes. And like I said, go ahead and play around with which stitches you use. It doesn't have to be a double crochet. The pattern is going to be the same. So you could do 5 single crochets, skip 2, 5 single crochets, chain 2, 5 single crochets, and just work it in that stitch as well. So there's no end to the number of creative things that you can do with the zigzag stitch and crochet to add texture and just make it really fun and mix up the colors. I love the zigzag for doing stripes. I think that it just makes a really nice stripe pattern. So let me know what you're going to be doing with it and show me your projects. I love to see what people make with the tutorials that I give. So you can find me on social media, DM me on Instagram if you want to send pictures of what you're working on. And you can also drop down in the description and grab your copy of the Ultimate Guide to Crochet for your mental health, because crochet is more than just fun. It is actually good for you. So until next time, happy stitching.